Hi guys. Okay, so I'm ready to present my case study presentation. I've honestly done about 10 takes already, so hopefully this one will work. I wanted to first introduce you to Denny, my adorable super student that I chose to do my case study tutoring with. Denny is just awesome. He's an 8-year-old second grader. He is multilingual, speaking Spanish and English fluently, and Spanish is the primary language spoken in his home. And I have to add that I think that may be the root of some of his literary issues, is that there is no one speaking English in the home. And so when it comes to things like reading together, asking questions, summarizing, and the fluency mainly, those things are being done in another language once Denny leaves school. Denny is gifted. He has a brother and a sister who are also gifted students at our school. I actually had the older brother, Edwin. They're great kids, great family, a lot of support. Both parents are very hands-on and active. They come to all school functions, anything that we're having, they show up for. Denny is just a lot of fun. He's really fun-loving. Everybody, the students, the teachers, everybody who comes into contact with Denny just adores him. So then, why Denny? Well, Denny is gifted, and I know that a lot of us get that class roll at the beginning of the year, and you assessed, okay, who's in tier 2, who's already in tier 3, who's got the SST meetings on the calendar, who do I need to immediately start interventions with, and then you see those kids on the gifted list, and you're like, okay, we're good. So, and I kind of did that with Denny, maybe just the first 2 or 3 days, but in our county, we give an assessment known as Ames Web, and that may sound familiar to some of you. And as soon as I gave it, all the other gifted kids came up and they flew through. We were looking for words per minute goal of 60 words a minute at the time. As soon as Denny started trying to read, I could see that there was a definite contrast between his fluency and what he could comprehend orally and verbally, and even answering questions on worksheets. So when he started with me at the beginning of this year, in mid-August, he was reading on a low first grade level, probably at end of kindergarten maybe. And he's so mature and so smart, he's very aware of that. And knowing that he was not reading like the other kids in his peer group really bothered him. He mentioned at the beginning of the year, one of the first things he said to me was, I can't read. I need to know how to learn to read this year. This needs to be my year. And so when I was thinking of who would be the perfect student that would be able to make some gains and to give that extra time to, Denny was the first name that popped up. So here's some of his pretest results. Phonemic awareness, his onset fluency, the beginning of words, he got 9 out of 10 correct. Final sounds, 7 out of 10, blending phonemes, 6 out of 10, segmenting phonemes, 6 out of 10, and rhyme production, 8 out of 10. Now that blending and segmenting is worrisome for sure, because those aren't even really skills we're doing in second grade. I really did not feel like as a whole the phonemic part of this was the main issue, but we did work on it, and we'll talk about those scores at the end. His fluency was 31 words a minute, so that is not bottom of the barrel exactly. Like, I did have other students slower than that, but the goal for the beginning of the year for second graders is 60 words a minute, and then we're testing again in 2 weeks, and that goal goes up to 75. So looking at that 31 did put Denny in the below average range on that testing, which is a red flag and something that we use when we know we've got to start some interventions, and possibly if there are other scores in that below or well below average range, actually going ahead to tier 3. Comprehension, his unaided recall, that was on the QR5 test. He had 23 idea units, being able to retell details from the story, and he is excellent at that. I'm not concerned about that. His writing is also a concern with the fluency. His pretest score was 11, and that is out of a scale of 1 to 36. So he could tell a story with not a good beginning, middle, and end, not a lot of details, a lot of spelling errors. He could respond to the prompt, but not on grade level. That 11 put him as an emergent writer, which is, it's not where I wanted him to be. All right, so some literacy goals that I set for Danny at the beginning of the tutoring program. Danny will improve reading fluency by increasing his sight word recognition. Of course, fluency is, to me, the most important skill that I teach students in school. There are lots of content standards about Native Americans and science and moon phases, but at the end of the day, I need to know that those babies can read before they leave my classroom. And second graders, for those of you who teach upper grades, second graders should be reading fluently before they go to third grade. Third grade is that milestone where they are reading to learn, not learning to read. Teachers are not doing phonics. They're not doing decoding skills. They're just teaching. So second grade is where the rubber meets the road. And that's my number one goal for Denny, is to get that fluency up so that he can read and everything else will fall into place behind it. I think that will lead to goal number 2, which is improving reading comprehension by using some good strategies like predicting and summarizing, talking about what's happening before, during, and after reading, asking him lots of 5W questions, which is goal number 3. Denny will improve his writing ability by including the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, and why when appropriate in his narrative writing. And in my case study, my overall, just reflecting, I did write that as a teacher, that is something that I struggle with. I tend to teach reading and writing as 2 separate subjects. Even I've always taught, upper grades, and in 4th and 5th grade, there is a writing class, and then separately, a separate block, there's a reading class. And that's sort of where my brain has been. This is my first year as a lower grades teacher, and I have had to try to really work hard to integrate writing about what you read, answering those 5 W's on paper, just not on worksheets and out loud. So that's definitely a goal that I have for Denny, to be able to get those 5 W's into his narrative writing. This is the main standard that I focused on. These are the Georgia Standard of Excellence for 2nd grade. Standard Reading Fluency 4, read with sufficient accuracy and fluency to support comprehension. Read on-level text with purpose and understanding. Read on-level text orally with accuracy, appropriate rate, and expression on successive readings. And that's where that repeated readings lesson plan came in. I did several of those, and having Denny read over and over, and by that 3rd or 4th one, you could see how confident he was. He was able to start reading with expression and even in character after several readings, which tells me he's got a lot going on up there. He just was tripping over actually the decoding and sounding out the words. And then C is using context to confirm or self-correct word recognition and understanding. Rereading as necessary. That is something that is already a strength for Denny, being able to fill in the blanks. He's learned a lot of coping mechanisms over his few little years on Earth to be able to fill in the blanks. Even if he doesn't know all the words, he's always been able to get enough to where he didn't really raise red flags with last year's teacher. I didn't see any indication of any interventions or stress last year when he was a 1st grader. Some tutoring in action. All right, and this is some of my technology in action. I don't know why it's a big black screen, but when you click on it, it does work. So this is Denny. There he is. And here's a little bit of our lesson together.
Kate and her brother Jake like to play catch. They play with softballs, footballs, and tennis to have more space for throwing the balls farther. When it's raining out, they play catch in the basement. They use a tennis ball because it bounces off of the basement wall. Jake is going to soccer camp for a week this summer. Kate is sad because she won't have anyone to play catch with while he is gone. The week before Jake leaves, they go to the park together. There's a girl tossing a ball in the air by herself. Kate and Jake invite her to play with them. Her name is Brooke. Kate is happy now that she has a new friend to play catch with while her brother is at camp. Right. So did you understand everything in the story that I read? Do you have any questions about the story? Okay. So now I want you to read the passage to me. And this first time, any mistakes you make or questions you have or tips that I have for you, we're going to talk about it together. And then the second time that you read it, I'm going to count how many words you read, and I'm going to start the timer, and then we're going to talk about that one, okay? But this one, just relax, have fun, and just read it the best that you can, okay? Go.
Kate and her brother Jake like to play catch. They play with softballs, footballs, and tennis balls. They toss the balls back and forth in their yard all the time. Sometimes they go to the park to have more space for throwing the ball further. When it is raining out, they play catch in the basement. They use a tennis ball because it bounces off the
Okay, so what I was doing in the video, other than reminding myself of the importance of curling your hair and wearing foundation to work, is trying to do repeated readings with Denny. I was showing him, modeling me reading it, what to listen for ahead of time, giving him a heads up on what I was going to be looking for, and then having him do it himself and read it back to me. And we ended up, I can't show the whole video, but doing that several times. And then he went over a rubric at the end that showed where he sees himself so that he can self-reflect and self-correct. And he did a great job doing that. And that was actually one of our first tutoring sessions. And so by the end, I'm just so proud of where he is. I do have some reflections and recommendations for his parents. And his mom and I have talked about these, and I'm going to show her a final copy of the case study report. But first of all, to continue with the daily reading, I think that if he can read at least 20 minutes a day out loud in English, and to someone who can ask him questions, those important 5 W's, even predicting and summarizing questions. You know, what do you think is happening in this story? How do you think this character is feeling? Who do you think the main characters are? Why do you think that happened? Or what could an alternate ending have been? Just giving him any opportunity to write about reading and respond. I think writing at home is something that most parents don't think to do. And I think a lot of parents don't understand what a 2nd grade or 1st grade or 3rd grade marker paper looks like. Like, where does your child fall in the scheme of a writing rubric? They see characters that may be backwards or not on the line. Some are big, some are small. The spacing might be off, and it might be just 1 or 2 sentences, and they're not aware that by 2nd grade we are looking for full, healthy paragraphs with adjectives and sensory language. And so educating parents a little bit and showing them what it should look like so that they can have their kids write at home. Not just Denny, but all of my students. There's such a focus on reading that we need to put a little focus on writing. So I would recommend that for his mother. And just continuing with those 5 W questions when he's reading and writing. And for future teachers, because Denny is so mature and he's so self-aware, Build confidence. Don't do or say anything that will make him feel embarrassed, or he will shut down like a little clam. You have to make sure that he feels like you're proud of him and he should be proud of himself, and he will work super hard for you. Another really important thing, if I put these in order of most to least important, I would have definitely put this first. Implement intervention strategies when they're needed. Don't get him and think, oh, he's gifted, so sweep to the side. He'll be great. Let me put my focus on those really failing, struggling students. No matter what situation someone comes to you in, gifted kids come in all shapes and sizes and ability levels. You can actually be gifted and in Tier 3 or special ed at the same time, and I've actually had those students. Why there were never any interventions done in the past, I'm not sure. I can look at his names from first grade. I can look at his other data and conference notes, and there's no mention in there of the fact that Denny is not reading at all and the other students are. And I think that may be because maybe the teacher just, I'm not sure, maybe they assumed that it was it was a language thing, that it was a dual language thing, and that it would fall into place. And maybe it was just that he's gifted and they thought that would fall into place. But if anybody needs interventions, you have to do them. And assist in his writing. Denny tends to gather all the letters that go in a word, but maybe not put enough emphasis on the phonetic sounding out, the decoding of the word in his writing. So for instance, the word turtle, he might write TRUTLE, and just to make sure that you call him out on it and make him sound it out and see, does this spelling, does the sounds that these letters make, is it in the same order as when I'm orally, like verbally saying this word? And those are my main reflections and recommendations. Thank you for watching the slideshow. It's been a great semester. I have learned so much, and it was just in the nick of time. And I look forward to watching yours.